Hi everyone. I am sitting here with Louie Schwartzberg today in Los Angeles. We're on Zoom, but both of us are in Los Angeles. He's an award-winning cinematographer, director, and producer. And of course, to our German audience, he is most known for his movie Fantastic Fungi, which played very, very successful in Germany and which we will definitely talk about today in this interview. So, Louis, thank you so much for taking the time. We're very appreciative of you starting this Wednesday morning with us and letting us get to know a little better, talking about your mission and your path, and also obviously about fantastic fungi. Good
Great to be
morning.
with you.
Thank you. So, as a person myself who loves to spend a lot of time in nature and traveling, and I'm very familiar with the feeling that it generates in us when we connect to nature, I obviously prepared well for this interview, and I dove deep into your previous work as well as the Louis channel, which I definitely want to get back to in a later question.
Yeah.
And I was so astonished in all the good ways how meditative and calming it felt to me watching the movies and art films that you have on your channel.
Mhm.
So I would really like to start out this interview with nothing less than what is your mission of your work?
Yeah. I think I want people to fall in love with nature in order to protect it. I think that beauty is nature's tool for survival because we protect what we love. And I appreciate you saying that it made you feel meditative and calm. I think that beauty is something more than a superficial thing that has been used to sell product. Um, it's not glamour, you know. It is a biological, beautiful force of energy that orchestrates the dance of life. And if you can lean into beauty as something that not only turns you on, but is a portal into nature's intelligence, into wonder and awe, then it's also a reconnection with your soul. And it's great that beauty is something that is pleasurable because it isn't like hard work to do. Um, but I would say for me, it's my pathway into feeling spiritual and transcendent.
Mhm. That is beautiful. Yes, nature is really one, maybe the most important thing that really lets us connect to the spirits and to our own soul. So thank you for sharing that. What is it that nature taught you personal? If I can ask you that, it is a personal question, but if you want
Sure.
to answer like two, three things that you would really say, this has could no one else but nature teach me.
Well, nature, I think, taught me how to live a sustainable life. I think that what you learn when you observe nature is that efficiency is part of it. You know, it doesn't waste a single molecule, everything gets recycled. And that is a beautiful model for how to live your life. It also taught me everything about color, pattern, texture. As an artist, you know, it still is my greatest teacher to learn about how to create art. And it also, I would say, touches the deepest part of my soul. So I
Mhm.
love relating to these universal rhythms and patterns that don't just only touch my soul. I could say they're universal because they touch everybody's soul. And I'm just maybe more of a conduit to share that because so many people do, you know, they come out of the film and they're crying and I'm going, oh shit, that's not a sad movie. Why are you? Because it touched their heart. They went really deep. I think it's similar to that feeling of a homecoming, you know, when you connect with your own inner voice. It's like been a long time since I've been there, or like a long time since I've been home, a long time since I saw a close friend. You get emotional, right?
Mhm.
And that reconnection is what we all need. We are nature. The environmental degradation that's occurring in the world right now is the fact we have this idea that nature is separate from us. It's out there. We got to take care of it. We got to help it. No, no, no. It's not like that at all. That even that idea from an environmentalist point of view is wrong. It's more
Mm.
like it is us, and whatever you do, whatever I do to nature, I do to myself, and that changes the dialogue, I think, completely. Nature's fine without us, you know. It's going to survive. The question is, will we survive if we continue to potentially, damage the source of life that we need?
Yeah, yeah. Do you, I know, and you did a beautiful TED Talk, which I definitely want to link under this video, about your story and how you even started filming and why you started going into nature, which back at that time had very practical reasons for you. But that's how you got into the time lapse filming. And regarding to what you were just explaining, what role does the time lapse play in the ability of us to connect to nature through your lens
Yeah,
more?
it's a great question. Um, so so time lapse, which I pioneered, back in the 70s, because nobody had ever done it before in 35 millimeter movie film, because 35 millimeter movie film, certainly back then, was only used for feature films or commercials. Um, but when I developed time lapse, it enables you to look at life from the point of view of a flower. So what I'm doing is I'm compressing time by shooting one frame every 5 minutes or 10 minutes, and you see a flower open, for example, or a sunset, maybe one frame every 15 seconds. And you realize that we have a very narrow window of perception. We look at things in film words, 24 frames per second. We shoot 24 frames per second and we play back 24 frames per second so that it looks normal, right? Me moving my arm, whatever, motion. So there's a one-to-one relationship. If I speed things up by shooting one frame a second or one frame a minute, then when it plays back 24 frames per second, it accelerates it. So that's just a technical part of it.
Mhm.
And in a way, the camera becomes like a time machine that now, rather than talk about the fact, well, that time, what is time? That's a big, heavy question to get into. I can actually show you that there are different modes of perception. So the point of view of a flower or a redwood tree, 500 years old, we're like a flash. We're like ants going around. A fly might only live a week or two. And so we move in slow motion in relationship to a fly. It opens your heart to realize that every living creature has its own point of view, its own metabolic rate, its own frame rate. And that's true, I think, in life. With you look at different cultures, for example, when you travel, you go around the world, people eat differently, they have different language, they have different music, different culture. What does that do to you? It opens your mind, right? It broadens your perspective. You become more open-hearted. You don't have a narrow point of view that the way I live my life and in the country that I live in is the only way to live. We need to have a broader perspective. And that's what I think time lapse and slow motion cinematography does. It enables you to put yourself in somebody else's shoes or 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 feathers or
Mhm.
petals and look at life from their point of view. And the natural outcome would be it opens your heart.
That is so great. Yeah, it's a thank you for that perspective. I really haven't looked at it or that, yeah, that's what my question rooted in, because I was thinking like I can clearly feel what it does to me to watch the time lapse, but then I couldn't really place in where it comes from. And yeah, it's like traveling. It's like traveling to a different culture or a different view or maybe even a different planet.
Exactly.
So yeah, that is really great. What I would like to also briefly speak about with you is your Louie channel that you have created, where yeah, where you offer very valuable free resource. And what what is your how did you develop this idea and who did you make it for?
Yeah, it's a great question. Well, I'm doing a lot of different things, and people, you always want to pigeonhole you. Like, for example, my nature imagery, I'm using it for healthcare and hospitality. I call it visual healing. I just finished, after Fantastic Funghi, I did a film about gratitude, which is about people, similar to what we just discussed. People, mostly all across America, but around the world, that live their life with passion after maybe overcoming adversity. And then there's my nature films like Fantastic Fungi, Wings of Life for Disney, and um, Mysteries of the Unseen World with Nat Geo. So I love exploring all those different things, but people always want to go, well, who are you? You know, and so I,
What is the box you fit in? That's what
like
people want
what's
to
your
know.
brand? What's your brand? And
Yeah.
and so we figured, well, let's just put everything into like one platform, And as we were working on it, we were just calling it the Louie Channel as a working title, kind of, and then it just sort of stuck. So the idea is I have these carousels instead of like horror, action, adventure. We have, we have fungi, we have gratitude, we have wonder and awe, Louie Land for children, visual healing for healthcare, um, conscious creators for other filmmakers to be able to put their work on because a lot of films don't get distribution as well. And just wanted to have a safe place where there would be zero toxic imagery. I believe that even looking at a trailer or a commercial where there's violence is harmful to your physiology because you're immediately triggering that fight or flight, mode, the fear button, which releases cortisol throughout your body. And instead of running away from that tiger, it's just storing inside of you. And that creates disease, and I think can shorten your life. So hopefully research will eventually come out that will even scientifically prove what I'm saying is true, that, toxic imagery, energy, it's not good for you. Just it took a long time to realize tobacco smoking wasn't good, fast food isn't good, junk food. Um, Anything that enters your eyes is like anything that you ingest is, if it's toxic, obviously it's not healthy. So I want to have a safe place where you would never bump into anything, not even a promo of some other film where you quickly see someone pull out a gun and she shoots somebody. Like, what the fuck? How many, how many killings or murders would you ever witness in real life? Most studies show that by the time a kid leaves high school, they've seen 1,000 murders on television.
Mhm.
Like, what are we doing?
Yeah, yeah, I believe that too. And we that brings me to a focus we actually had at Mind and Spirit last year, but we're still continuing it, which is called Film and Consciousness. And in that focus, we're really asking the question on how can bring film more consciousness to people. What role does can film, like good film and heart opening film, bring to politics, to society? And also when you were referring earlier and saying that a lot of films unfortunately can't get distributed. It's oftentimes this kind of film, right? The film that is not the action film, that doesn't have the killing, that is really more for this for the spirit and the heart and the mind. So What would you say? What is the role of film, but also why do these kinds of films, movies, documentaries have such a hard time to get distributed and actually also get people to pay to watch them? I mean,
Right.
you very you offer all of your content, at least on, not all of it, but most of it on the Louie channel, you offer it free, which is
Right.
very generous and will bring a lot of good to many people. But then there's obviously a lot of people who make those movies also, or documentaries, and we all need to live off something, right?
Right.
In this world, we need some
Yeah.
money, and so we need to earn some money. So why is it so hard for these movies to perform?
Well, because I think, the entertainment, and actually now it's been, followed up with social media and the news. I mean, the easiest button to press is a fear button, you know? That's the easy one to do. It doesn't take talent to do it. If I point a gun at you, I'm going to get a reaction. How do I make you laugh and cry? That takes talent. So I think Hollywood in particular, it's a business and they have a formula, and it's really specific as to what they want to create, an adrenaline rush. How do you create an adrenaline rush? Or in their words, it's like, how do I make people sit on the edge of their seat? How do I rattle their cage? Those are like the buzzwords, which is why I don't pitch those guys anymore, because I don't want to rattle your cage, right? And um, I also don't want you to fall asleep either. So, um, so anything that doesn't fit that model doesn't work. And now we're in a terrible news cycle where it's all about fear, throughout the world.
Mm.
Um, people or politicians use that to get your attention. If I get your attention, I win. And that's what we haven't learned yet. I mean, Donald Trump being the ultimate example of that. If I'm vulgar, if I'm gross, I can grab your attention. It's hard not to pay attention to that. But what is attention? Attention is consciousness. So if I have your attention, I win, even if I'm gross, because now you're in my world, right? I own you, you know?
Yeah.
So, and because we're hardwired in the amygdala to relate to fear as a number one survival feature, it's easy to go in that direction. The harder direction is obviously shifting consciousness with beauty and wonder and joy and love. And there just hasn't been a business model, I think, that really supports it. I feel that we clearly need a new story. So it's almost like fast food. You know, it's like people get addicted to that. If you don't offer them, let's say, healthy food, they don't even know about organic food. Why would you even try it? You know?
Yeah.
And then the argument is like when I talk to theater owners, like, why do you always have, junk food in the concession stand? Well, the answer is, well, that's what people want. Well, how do you know? It's like a chicken and the egg, right?
Yeah.
Because um, if their argument is, oh, yeah, we should have healthy food, but that's not what people want, you don't know the answer because you really haven't exposed it. You haven't marketed it. You can't just say, well, here's a healthy item, over here, and everything else is junk food. Obviously, everyone's going to eat the junk food. Um, so we clearly need a new story. The old story of the macho story of kill or be killed, even the nature documentaries, survival of the fittest, all needs to, I think, be changed or have an alternative choice, which would be the feminine side of nature,
Mhm.
um, about, you know, regeneration, rebirth, symbiosis, mutualism, connection, cooperation, which actually is the pathway for our survival on this planet. That's what we need to do. And to get away from conflict as being the number one story, no matter how they do it, it's all about conflict. I mean, I've been told hundreds of times that you cannot tell a story without conflict. Well, that's one kind of story. I'm not saying it's impossible, but the other story is about cooperation, right? And the feminine is all about that. That's why I make films like Wings of Life about pollinators and flowers and fungi, which create soil for plants to live. in every second as I'm speaking right now, there are billions of interreactions that are occurring in nature that are symbiotic.
Mhm.
And maybe only a handful are predator versus prey, you know, which is the top of the food chain. The bottom of the foundation of life is all about the feminine. It's all about symbiotic. It's all about the flowers and the back and the fungi and all the little critters that make life go forward. That's a beautiful story, but it's not the story that the old-fashioned studios and networks want to make.
Yeah, yeah. Thank you. Thank you. That was a very valuable perspective. And while you were just talking, I was wondering, I sometimes think that the whole AI development, which I'm sure has a lot of good in it, but I often wonder, is that the key that is going to bring us back to authenticity and connection? Because people, with all the artificial development, at one point, people are gonna crave it so much to have real human connection, to have real connection to nature and to the good things, to the nurturing things, to Mother Gaia. So do you think that that is just a random thought, or it could have some truth
I,
in it?
well, I think it's a very hopeful, optimistic thought, but I don't think that's what's direction we're going in right now, because even before AI is really beginning to emerge, we're already addicted to being on our phones and, communicating virtually to each other, having friends that aren't friends at all, and already becoming disconnected in a giant way. I would hope that, you know, if AI creates more artificial nature worlds, I don't want that to happen, to be honest. And it's got the possibility of doing that. And so I don't want people to be disconnected, wearing a headset, even imagining they're on a forest or something. No. Uh, I think authenticity will hopefully stay in reality,
Mhm.
and that our sensory receptors will appreciate the difference between tripping out in your mind and actually taking a walk in the woods. I think that what's interesting is even with my imagery, which is digital, and I show people things that the human eye can't see, I hope what it does is it inspires you to take a walk in the woods. That when you go by that flower, you're not going to just say it's a pretty flower. You're going to go, oh my God, that's the thing that gives us the food, the vegetables, the fruits, the nuts, the seeds. Oh my God, look at the bee. I'm not going to run away from the bee,
Mhm.
scared that it's going to sting me. I love you, bee, because without you, you can't move the DNA around from flower to flower. So now I have a much deeper appreciation because I saw it in close up, in macro photography. I understand what they're doing, and I'm so grateful that they do it. And what it does, it makes me more present because now I can slow down and be filled with wonder and awe and be present with their energy. I can be the flower. I can be the bee, right? I get to
Yeah.
be kind of with them, observing them with a little bit of scientific knowledge, which helps kind of open up the door to perception, which is great. And then why is it beautiful? Oh my God, what's going on? What are they doing? What is the dance of life? Asking all these questions and being involved in the mystery without knowing the answer is really cool. And that's what makes you present, is not knowing the answer, but just diving into the mystery.
Yeah, and by that, we're back to the attention you mentioned in all the best ways, right? When I start paying attention, then I get the consciousness and, yeah, really the appreciation for nature and the
Yeah.
flowers.
And with the Louie channel, it is quote unquote free, but we do have the ability to put some films behind a paywall, you know?
Mhm.
And so, but the real benefit of it is that we're cross-pollinating different audiences. So if somebody makes a film about, about soil, and someone's going to make one about yoga, and another person makes one about saving the whales, we can cross-pollinate these different audiences to come together and because they are probably interested in these other subjects as well, right? And so that's really the benefit of is sharing audiences. And other than money, the other currency is eyeballs. So
Mm.
that is the second way that there's a benefit. So that's what also we're trying to build. That's the new currency, right? People
Yeah,
don't ask you how much money do you have. They ask you how many followers do you have.
that's true. That's true. In social media times,
Yes.
definitely.
And social media, exactly.
I would like to swing over to Fantastic Fungi
Yeah.
because I think for an audience, also for a movie, I have made the experience that it does draw the attention to a movie much more when they know a little bit about the story behind it. It is the moment where they can connect to the story behind the scenes, kind of. So could you talk a little bit on how the idea of fantastic fungi arose in you? What were the next steps? How did you develop the concept? The filming and everything. Could you just take the audience a little bit into that process to connect a little more to the
Okay.
movie?
Sure. So it's sort of been, I think my filmography would be an evolutionary journey. As I spoke earlier about the fact, pioneering time lapse enabled me to see that flowers open and close. And then, making the invisible visible has always been a passion of mine, probably inspired by a mushroom trip when I was, probably younger and in college, that it does open you up into seeing things differently from a different perspective. And I always want to be able to share that. So that enables me to want to show things that aren't quote unquote 24 frames per second, whether they're altering time or altering scale, either
Mhm.
one. So after, filming flowers, well, I heard about the bees were disappearing, colony collapse disorder. So I made Wings of Life, which is narrated by Meryl Streep. She's the voice of the flower, seducing bees, bats, hummingbirds, butterflies to come get her, to get fertilized. So it's like a love story that feeds the earth. It's very
It's
sensual,
beautiful.
you
Yeah.
know, and um, sexy, erotic in a G-rated way, you know. But that's the beautiful part of beauty, I guess, as well, is that you have this energy that motivates behavior for life to go forward. So, but then you go, well, shit, what do plants need if they're critical for, they're the only solar collectors that can take light energy, which is the only source of energy we know of, really, convert it into food, fuel, medicine, shelter. What do they need?
Mhm.
They need water, they need food, but they need soil because that's where the nutrients are. And where does soil come from? And honestly, you could ask most people who go to college and universities, where does soil come from? They won't know the answer. Okay, so I discover soil is made by, mycelium. Mycelium is the giant organism under the ground that breaks down organic matter to recycle it for plants to grow. And then the mushroom is the fruit that when they need to reproduce, it pops up above ground so that it can send its spores and reproduce. Well, again, without soil, no plants, no plants, no food, no food, no animals, no animals, no life. I mean, I'm always trying to get to the foundation. What is the foundation of life? And go deeper and deeper and deeper. So that's sort of the reason why I made the movie.
Great. Yeah, and it became a beautiful story, very deep and yeah, very like it sucked me right in from the first shots. And then I also love it how you tell the story, how you really start in nature with the mycelium, but then also have the lady who does the cooking
Yeah.
and kind of like shows a little bit what can you actually do with the fruit, with the mushrooms, and then also talk about the psilocybin character of it all. So I think that's a very nice round journey you're
Yeah.
doing the
Yeah,
movie.
they heal, they can heal the planet, they can heal your body, like with
Yeah.
lion's mane and turkey tail, and also shift your consciousness. And we
Yeah.
talk about psilocybin in the movie primarily in treating cancer patients with end of life anxiety. So it doesn't at all promote recreational use, you know, um, but looks at it purely from more of a medical. But the medical also opens up the door to the spiritual, because the takeaway from these cancer patients is that they lost their fear of dying and therefore embraced living. What a gift that is when you get a severe diagnosis that you're going to die, and if you're not prepared for that, for having some kind of spiritual belief, then you have two problems. One, my body is like malfunctioning, number one. Number two, what does that mean? Or what's going to happen? I mean, that is the existential question. What happens to you when you die? And
Right.
what if you have thoughts that are fearful, like heaven and hell? Where did that story come from? Like, I don't know. I don't think it's a great, the hell part is not a great story, you know? Uh, but the story of connection, the story that we are part of everything, is comforting, you know?
Yeah.
And and you can maybe, once you realize that, then you feel like you're not going to disappear. You're not going to, end up in nothingness, that you become part of everything and that you came from everything. It's a little more comforting, I think, to lean into that.
It is
And
very comforting, yes.
yeah,
How long did it take you to make the movie?
well, we released it, if you remember, like at the end of 2019, but I started it 15 years before,
Oh,
and I did
wow.
it little by little,
Hmm.
with the time lapse, but also because I made a promise to myself. It would be the film that I would be able to control what happens with it. So it meant I had to raise, independent money,
Hmm.
which
Hmm.
in the past I make a trailer and a sizzle reel and all that, and a studio or a network would pick it up, and then you
Hmm.
lose control.
Hmm.
And the problem with losing control is that the people who usually greenlight a movie are gone by the time you finish the movie. And then you
Hmm.
have executive shuffle and politics. And so it always hurt my heart to see the films that I make, which is about celebrating life and protecting life, not being shown the way they promised they would show it,
Hmm.
theatrically, etc.
Hmm.
And I kind of said, no more of that, you know.
Yeah.
And the only way I'm going to be able to do that is to have raise the money independently. And it took a long time. I mean, I did it little by little and over a long period of time, but it goes to show that I really knew that this movement, this psychedelic movement that's happening right now, was going to eventually happen, you know,
Yeah.
and that it would converge with this consciousness movement that is happening. So the psychedelic consciousness, wellness, all that kind of overlaps. And I always had it in my, I mean, obviously that's where I want my life to go. That's where I want life to go. And it is going in that direction. The question is it going there fast enough?
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, and I think it is relevant as never at the moment, the movie. So you did the remastered version of it. I hope we get to see it in Germany too. I saw it. I
Yes.
was lucky. I got to see it with you at the Illuminate Film Festival. But yeah, it's very great. So I'm full of joy getting to talk to you and yeah, hearing so much of your wisdom, but also of your story. Thank you so much for taking the time to sit with me and us and the
Sure.
German audience. I just have one last question. What are your next ideas? What are you working on? What is your current state of being? Where is
Yeah.
it going?
Well, what recently we did, which was super cool, I got my imagery on the sphere in Vegas on the outside.
Oh, wow. Congratulations on that.
Yeah.
That is
And
great.
it'll play there for a couple of years. and we did 6 90-second kind of nature montages, pollinators, mushrooms, animals, um, butterflies. It's pretty cool. And so that's like 7 football fields in size. And I love the fact that it's in Vegas because it kind of takes it into the belly of the beast. I mean, Vegas has a certain reputation for other kinds of energy, you know? And then here is nature in the middle of Vegas, which is this artificial thing in the middle of the desert, right?
Right.
And there's a
There
lot
is
of,
not much, I mean, there is a lot of nature around it, but not the green, nurturing
no,
nature.
yeah,
Yeah.
about, yeah, a 45-minute drive, a beautiful desert landscapes, all of that. But yeah, I mean, there's gambling and things that I don't really, jive with. And so I love the idea that we can have this alternate vision of life, you
Yeah.
know. And it also gets so fake too. I mean, there's New York, there's Paris, there's Rome. I mean, there's like I wonder if people when they go there imagine like that's what Paris and Rome and Italy and New York is like. I don't know. I mean, I know that it's fake,
Yeah. Yeah.
but maybe people can't afford to go to those places in Europe, right? Which is okay. But it is a fake reality, you
It
know.
is.
It is. And so to be able to show you stuff that's like truth,
Yes.
truth in the middle of this like fantasy of alternate universe. Yeah, I think it's pretty cool. So I'm working on that, and I would just say in general, films that celebrate life. That's what's around the corner.
Great. Great. Yeah, great. Yeah, but with the sphere, that is really a very, very cool thing, especially as you say, I personally find it so important that we bring spirituality, nature to places where it's maybe not expected or, where people are completely disconnected. I think most people come to Vegas to party or, do their thing, but then being confronted, like literally, I mean, the sphere is gigantic, being confronted with those powerful images. I think that really does a lot of good. So yeah, thank you so much
Yeah.
for your work, for your place here on this earth, and the work you're doing for nature and for spirituality. Thank you for having this conversation with us, and
Yeah.
yeah, we wish you a beautiful day.
Okay. And thank you for this interview and for spreading the spores of wisdom in Germany and to your audience out there. Schwartzberg is Black Mountain. And so my
It is.
ancestors, I was able to visit Bavaria for the first time when I was filming Soarin' Around the World, which is a Disney theme park ride film. We filmed Neuschwanstein Castle,
Mhm.
yeah, which
Beautiful.
was
Yes.
built by Ludwig, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
König
And
Ludwig.
and I love Bavaria, and I really felt a connection to it. You know,
Mhm.
it's so beautiful. We filmed it in the fall with all the colors. Oh my God, it was so great. Um, and Neuschwanstein Castle was the inspiration, I think, for Walt Disney when he created, Disneyland. The
Yeah.
castle that you see
Yeah.
is
It
really a
looks very
replica.
similar. Yes.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that was the inspiration
Yeah.
for sure. So yeah, I got some deep roots and good vibes from being in Bavaria.
Yeah. Great. Great. Well, have a beautiful day, and I hope we can stay in touch.
Yeah.
And yeah, thank you for taking the time, Louis.